Welcome to the third and final segment of the three-part series on respect in relationships and how to know when you're being treated disrespectfully or spoken to in a very disrespectful way. I think that disrespect is something that's so prevalent, so common, and so many people grow up with it in their households that when they get to the point where they're in a relationship or marriage, they don't even recognize that that's what's going on. You don't see it as problematic because it's something that you've been around and exposed to your entire life. But this video goes through 21 things. I tried to limit it to just 21 of the most important that I kept seeing over and over the last 30 years of my relationship advice columns. So these are very common, these are widespread, these are worldwide, and these are issues that appear over and over in relationships between men and women. First, let's start by doing a little recap of the points that were covered in video number 2. Those are actually, I put 8 things, my count was off. It's supposed to be 7 in each video. So we're only going to have 6 on this one. But there were 8 covered in the last video. The Humpty Dumpty man, that's the guy who's broken and in pieces, and here you are trying to put him back together again like Humpty Dumpty. The guy who treats you with contempt and who tries to humiliate you publicly for a laugh or for clout, social media clout, or just for a laugh. I don't know, just because he wants to. The guy who shuts down communication. He's not trying to hear it. It walks off. It makes it very difficult to resolve problems and issues with him. The guy who tries to coerce you into some weird and strange intimate acts that you're really not interested in. Guilt tripping, threats with leaving you, with the relationship, cheating on you, this kind of thing. The guy who goes out of his way to make you jealous and feel insecure about him and the relationship. He gets a charge out of that for some reason. The guy who demands that you be submissive to him. He demands subjugation, even though he's not a husband and he's not following any of those scriptures himself. He just demands that just because you're a woman. The guy who tries to violate your freedoms and choices and options. He limits it with things like, well, my woman, why ain't doing that kind of thing or dressing like that or going there, this kind of thing. Or the guys who everyone in your family and all your friends are looking at him, wondering what in the world you see in him and what it is about him that you like. So they're confused. And, it bears sometimes taking a second look, though, like I said in video number 2, sometimes women reject that because they start saying things, well, you just don't want me to be happy. You just want me to be lonely. And they're not really paying attention to the fact that these people love you and they're trying to protect you. So if you want to, you can go, I'll link to the video number 2. If you haven't listened to it yet, you might want to do that first and then come back to listen to video number 3. Now let's talk about the type of relationship it's like an emotional roller coaster. You're really high and then you're really low. You experience all kind of mixed emotions. You're very confused about what it is that's going on in the relationship, and yet you stay. This is a real conflict for most women, an area of conflict, because you're trying to figure out if it's something here that can be negotiated, compromised on, or if it's something that you just have to accept and you're not sure, so you're wrestling around with your thoughts and your emotions about this guy and what he's doing and how he's treating you and how he's talking to you. Either way, it's not really what you want to be bothered with. And this issue that you need to overcome is going to require a huge sacrifice on your part to, quote, make it work. You like certain things about him. Of course you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be involved with him. But the things that you're worried about are things that will have a long-term impact on the relationship. Now, let me give you a couple of examples. You might like how he looks and you like how he treats you, but you're concerned about his inability to maintain employment, for example. He has already had 3 jobs so far in 2022, and it's only, mid-April. Do you leave now or do you stay and see what happens? Or maybe you have having an educated man is something that's important to you, and everybody in your family has degrees, master's degrees, all kind of stuff's going on, right? But he's been, quote, in school for 7 years, and he's no closer to getting that bachelor's than he was 5 years ago. Do you leave now or stay and see what happens? Getting married before you have children is important to you, but he keeps pressing you for babies now. What is this you saying to yourself? You want to, what are we doing here? Why do you keep asking me about that when I already told you I want to be married? So you stick around and trying to compromise and negotiate with him. Or maybe getting married is important to you, period, right? Not even just before kids, but just period at all. But he feels that marriage is a waste of time. It's just a piece of paper. It don't mean nothing. Should you stay and give it time, or do you leave now? It reminds me of this show I was watching this last weekend called The Ultimatum, and that was what they did. They gave ultimatums, either marry me or we're through. It was interesting. I'm talking about it on the community wall if you want to go over there and participate in that discussion. Dude seems okay right now, on his current medications, but dude has a history of mental illness and depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, whatever. He got something going on. And since you're only 19, 20 years old, you wonder how you are supposed to deal with him if things go sideways. You don't have that skill set. What are you doing? So you sit there and you try to deal with him and be all supportive and encouraging and play nurse and all that. And then you wonder, though, should I leave now or should I stay and see what happens? Some of you think it's okay for some of the outings when you go out, for you to pay for some of the outings when you guys go out. But you notice that when he comes over to your house, he's there every weekend, and he expects you to cover all the costs to feed and entertain him all by yourself. Like you guys decide to order pizza, he don't reach in his pocket. He expects you to pay because it's your house. So, you feed him, you buying the liquor, you buying the beer, you doing all the stuff, right? Why is that you allow him to do that, and how do you handle it is what the question is repeatedly comes up. Should I get upset? He's sending my food bill through the roof. But do I have the right to say something? So you trying to wonder, do I kick him out or do I stay and hope that, things work out in the end? Or maybe you tell everybody that you love him, but you don't really trust him for some reason, or maybe for many reasons. So should you leave, or should you just wait around and see if trust comes back? You think his friends and his relatives are kind of trifling and ghetto, even though he seems different. But you wonder if birds of a feather really do fly together. So you're like, do I stay or do I wait and see what happens? Some of you are dating interracially and you really like your partner. But say he has friends that make or family that makes some suspect, low-key kind of racist jokes and comments. They do it a lot. He doesn't laugh and he doesn't participate, but he doesn't shut it down either. He don't tell them off. He doesn't really do anything. So you looking at him with the side eye wondering, why does he act like that? Why does friends act like that? So you want to know, should I leave? Because he's not really like that. Or do I wait and see what happens? You love your boyfriend, but you don't like how much he smokes or drinks or games or watches popcorn, whatever. He got something going on there. And because it's interfering in the time that you spend with him, the time that you guys should be, be like doing boyfriend-girlfriend things. So you not really happy, but then when it's good, it's really good. So you're not really sure, should I stay and see what happens or should I leave? Another example, you love your boyfriend, but you don't like his friends. If you've ever even met them, that's another issue. They don't seem to like you very much either. So is that important? Do you feel like you need to be liked by his friends? So do you stay or do you wait and see what happens? Another example, you love your boyfriend, right? But you don't like that he has this female friend that he's always has hanging around. Sometimes it's somebody they used to date. Sometimes it's somebody they work with. Sometimes it's somebody that has been their friend, since they were in diapers, and it's more like a sister. But it still bothers you, and you're not sure if you should stay or if you should go. So you see what I mean? These are the kind of typical situations that you might run across, and these are culled from advice column letters. And the women are really in a turmoil, and they're not sure how they feel about it. So I really want you to think about it if you find yourself in one of these kind of situations. Make up your mind if you're going to stay or if you're going to go, and how you're going to handle yourself. And point number 17, let's talk about when you get with a dude and your kids don't like him. Your dog don't like him. Your cat don't like him. The only person who seems to like him is you. Now, If your young children and your pets don't like them, that's a very different thing, I think, uh, than say you have adult children that don't live with you, who are not going to be directly impacted by your relationship, by having questions about what you see in this person. That's different, and you have to weigh what's going on with your children. Do they feel threatened in some way? Do they feel like this guy's going to be taking resources from them because you've always given them everything that they wanted and they're spoiled? You have to kind of weigh some things there. But if you have young children and you have, loyal pets that seem to get really antsy around this person, you see the dog giving them the side eye, showing his teeth at them, growling at them, the cat hisses at them, they get skittish around them. You need to pay attention because animals are often very, very much tuned in. Let me put it that way. They're tuned in to people's character far more than humans can be, because you get distracted by other stuff like, beautiful words or how somebody looks or how they be putting it down. The animals don't care about that. Now, if you have a teenager, now this is a cautionary tale too. Sometimes teens may actually have a reason, and adolescent kids, they may actually have a reason to feel uncomfortable, as something could be going on that they're afraid to tell you about, like inappropriate touches, some low key threats, some lustful leers, inappropriate conversations or pictures or jokes that be showing that the person's showing them, or they may actually put their hands on your kids. Any talk of violence to or around them or any other mistreatment of your children can occur behind your back. And it doesn't take a long time. It's not like you have to leave the house. It can be in another room. It can just be, your daughter's walking by and the way he looks at her, licking his lips or something like that. He didn't say a word, so you didn't hear anything from the next room. But she saw it and she feels it and she's scared now. So she's like, well, Mama, I don't like him. Okay, you need to ask her why. And you think it's just with girls these days. These dudes be after your sons too. So you better be careful. Your kids are feeling uncomfortable or saying they don't like somebody. Don't just immediately brush it off. Pay attention and ask some questions, because they may have a very valid reason why you need to get rid of this fool, or possibly even call the police on them. You just don't know. But, if you notice your kids or your pets, trying to hide from the person, they cry when the person comes around, or the animals start nipping at them and scooting away from them, that's a sign. Ask questions. And as sad as it is, a lot of women will abandon their children in favor of a man. They will even allow him to discipline their children physically or talk to them crazy. That is very poor parenting. Those are your children. They're going to be your children no matter what man you have in your life, especially, you're not even married to dude. The stepfather has a little bit more credibility, but, because he's in the house taking care of him, and the kids need to respect him and treat him well. And hopefully you've done all this vetting that we're talking about already. But, just giving some dude who's just your fly-by-night boyfriend just breezy and talking about he gonna discipline your kids, you need to clock him upside the head with something and tell him, no, you don't. Let's put your hands on my kid. You losing your mind. Now you got, like I said, adult children that are out of the house living on their own. That's another that's another story, and you probably should have some kind of conversation with them. But they're not gonna carry as much weight as it would be if you have minor children living in the home. You would think this would go without saying, but unfortunately, like I said earlier, a lot of young women grew up in dysfunctional households where there was violence, there were threats of violence, actual violence, there was, loud arguing, there was name calling, there was throwing things. So, if you have this kind of situation where you grew up, that kind of stuff is somewhat normalized for you, and it's not going to have the same impact, and you're not going to feel as alarmed by someone who did not experience those things. It's going to shock them, and they're going to be like, what? You tripping, get out. But, any kind of abuse towards you or yours, okay? Anybody that means they pick your kid up rough, you got a toddler, they shout at your little baby, they want to tell your teenager what to do, get all in your 12-year-old son's face. One woman was telling me how she had this boyfriend, he got upset at her son who was 15, and he picked the boy up by his throat against the wall and was holding him there till she had to hit dude with something to make him let her son go. Of course, that was the end of that. I remember another letter a woman wrote me. She had a 5-year-old, and she moved to live with some guy, and the guy was mistreating her 5-year-old, and instead of her standing up and protecting her kid, she's writing me. I mean, at least she had enough sense to write me, but I mean, that you should have been writing to tell me how you handled it, not what should you do. Like her kid is going to be resenting her for not protecting him while this man's mistreating this child. So these are the kind of things that you any kind of abuse towards you or yours, and we're talking about verbal abuse, which is name calling and put downs and stuff like that. You so stupid, you can't do nothing right, that kind of thing. Financial abuse, where he's taking advantage of you financially. Emotional abuse, where they like cheat, things that hurt you. Cheating, of course, is one of them, but I'm going to talk about that separately. But where they threaten you to leave the relationship, they threaten to cheat on you. They tell you how they want to withdraw their love and affection. They turn their back to you and don't give you any hugs or kisses. These are the kind of things that hurt you deeply emotionally and wound you and bring up a lot of fears of abandonment in a lot of women. And of course, physical violence is in there as well. Now, this may include threats of violence towards you, your pets, your children, or your extended family. Because a lot of times, I'll do this and that if you don't do what I want you to do, kind of thing. You don't stay with me. It may also include threats or actual destruction of your property or your livelihood. They go to women's jobs and get you fired by acting a fool on your job, and they, the work done, they don't want that there. So that's abuse. That's abusive behavior as well. Calling your job 50 times, ringing everybody's phones when they can't reach you. That's abuse. It's the attempt to be controlling, and it's very abusive. So all of that basically is about you not doing what he wants you to do, and he's trying to force you into it. And those abusive kind of behaviors are, the first sign of them, of anything, you get rid of them. Boundaries and the violation of boundaries is a big one. It's very common as well. You say you don't want something, or you want to limit his access to something, or he asks you for something, you say no. You don't want to do it. You don't want him to have it. You don't want him to buy it, whatever. And he does it anyway. Whatever you say no to, you try to put up a limit. You try to put up a boundary, and he violates it. He presses against it. He, just basically does what he wants to do. Some examples from the advice column have included stealing women's money, taking their car, taking their jewelry, giving it to other women or their mothers, taking their expensive clothes and selling them, or other possessions, to get some money. Anything that you have of value, especially anything that another man gave you, they're going to feel like they had a right to get rid of it because you shouldn't have it anymore because you're with him now. They use your resources without being fair and uncompensating you for them, which causes you to lose money because you are covering expenses incurred to him, because of him, which maybe you don't have a budget for that, especially you single mom. Sometimes, you let him drive your car, but then he drives it because the tank is empty. Okay, so now he's using up all your money for gas, and gas is $5 something a gallon now. So you spending an extra $100 a week because he wants to drive your car and not put the gas in it and keep his money in his pocket. He eats all the food you have, so you wreck your budget to buy more, right? I remember reading advice letters when women let men drive their cars, right? This one woman was talking about her sister who had her boyfriend drove her car, totaled it. She didn't make him pay to replace it, and he didn't pay for the damages he didn't pay for anything. And then she gets another car, and he drives that, and he totals that one too. Now, of course, he's not on her insurance, so she has to come out of pocket to pay for all of this stuff. And he just like, what? Okay. Some of them will open up credit cards or account without your knowledge in like some identity theft type stuff. I remember reading a story about a woman who won millions in the lottery down south somewhere, and her pastor demanded 10%. Come to her house now and tell her she needs to tithe 10% to him. And then she had this raggedy boyfriend who kept getting in trouble and kept needing to be bailed out of jail to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably millions by the time she finished, because it seemed like every month he was back in jail. I think it was some cahoots with the local sheriffs and stuff. That's what I think. But, of course, I can't prove it. But these are just some examples of how they will violate your boundaries. And, you say no or you don't want to do something, and they're going to do it anyway. Cheating, though it is emotionally abusive and definitely a boundary violation, I put that in a separate category because it is something that's so egregious and yet so common. Women deal with it all the time. And so many different issues can arise out of that, like another kid, somebody becoming a stalker, somebody trying to hurt you or your children because they're jealous, or diseases, of course, are another option. So it's a little bit more of a threat. Let me say that than some other the boundary violations that I mentioned previously. But to me, cheating. Okay, say you just date somebody. You both single, no commitments have been made, no discussion about a commitment. Well, you're both single, so that's not cheating. You go with somebody else, you do something else with somebody else. That's just what you do because you're single. Now, if you guys have agreed to be committed, you guys trying to work towards something, you plan to get engaged and get married. So this is you on a track, right? You put yourselves by agreement on a specific track for your relationship. You have established guidelines for how you will interact with each other and what your time together means. Okay, so now you have pretty much like a contract. So now you got somebody who violates that contract. They can do this online or offline. They can do it in the real world. They can do it at work. They can do it walking down the street. They can do it on the commute train. They can do it with the neighbor. They can do it with one of your friends. They can do it with somebody met through one of their friends. They can do it online with sexting and DMing and those swipey things and dating sites. And, it's just so many different ways that people cheat these days. It's just terrible. And technology has kind of facilitated that and made it a lot easier. So, you got your husband, you thinking everything's all lovely, and he slide into other women's DMs and sending them, pick inappropriate pictures of himself, and you know what I'm talking about. It's just, I think so many women just can't believe it, when it happens because they really did trust this guy and they really did have faith in him to honor his commitments and to respect him, and he doesn't. And I want you to understand this. Anytime you have an agreement with a man, you married to a man, and he cheats on you, that is showing marked and complete and total disrespect. He does not give a fuck about you, about your feelings. And they want to say, but I still love you. It didn't mean nothing. Maybe not to you, but it meant something to me. And so that's the part when I'm talking about disrespect. He knows that. He knows that no man has been in a committed relationship or married and thinks that his woman is going to be okay with that. It just doesn't happen like that. They're not okay with it, so why would they think that you would be? So, this is something I think more women need to think about. I met a woman who told me flat out, was at this event where, women were gathered together, and she was talking and she was telling all the other ladies that, that's just what men do. And you just have to, to deal with it, and that's just how it is. And so I guess her husband was cheating, and she, had adjusted her mind to where it was going to be okay. I just looked at her. We would happen to be the only two women of color up in there, and so that was somewhat embarrassing. They all started looking at me. I'm like, I'm not married, so I can't tell you. I don't know nothing about this. My name is Bennett, and I ain't in it. And the final point, 21, which may seem rather innocuous and not that big of a deal, and it probably won't be for most women, but yet and still it is a very important character trait that I want to try to explain to you. You have a guy who's done something wrong, okay? He said something he shouldn't have said. He did something he didn't do. He, let you down. He got caught in some fantabulous tale. I mean, in spite of whatever drama that problem may be, the fact is he, tries to justify it or flips it around and said, well, what about when you did such and such a, or, it's not like you an angel. What's basically what they're doing is they're not really accepting responsibility, and they're not being accountable for the problems that their behavior or their choice of words caused. They want to try to make it your fault. This is a very common issue, especially in the Black community. We see this all the time. Allegedly, it is a trait of narcissism. And I don't want to, I'm not trying to diagnose people. I'm just saying what's reported. You read it out online. You can see, what the traits are for narcissists. We would have some videos here where I give a lot of examples. But a man who can never apologize and admit that he was wrong is someone that a relationship is not going to go far with, because you got to think it's like this. If you do something that's messed up, but you never think that it's messed up and you refuse to accept that it's messed up, well, then that means you're just going to keep doing messed up stuff. And the person who's being hurt by your choices to do messed up stuff is going to be injured over and over and over again. That person would be you, ladies. You know, ideally, when someone apologizes, that is an acknowledgement that they made a mistake and that they did something wrong and they're sorry. They don't mean to hurt you, and it was just something that they made, some stupid decision they made in the heat of the moment. They didn't understand something, whatever. They need to clarify what the problem was, why the problem happened, and then assure you that that choice, that behavior, and that action will not happen again. That is what a sincere apology is about. There was this movie that came out, I think it was way in the 70s, called Love Story, and this famous line with Ryan O'Neal and Ally McGraw. And she's dying of cancer or something, and he says, well, you know, love means never having to say you're sorry. And that used to be a, tagline all over T-shirts they had on everything. But essentially, it's true, because if you really love someone and you really respect someone, you're not going to be doing a lot of things where you have to always say that you're sorry, because you're making choices here. You're making a decision to do some jacked up stuff. And then you want to run around and ask for forgiveness for it. No, that doesn't sound like respect. It doesn't sound like love, not in my book. The main point of this series is to present things from a different point of view for you to take a look at, some stuff for you to examine. And as you go forward, I'm a big one that is just not really into this hope and dreaming and wishing and all this kind of stuff that a lot of women are into. I wish the word hope would just go away. I also hate the word nice. I prefer that women be realistic. Open your eyes. Take them rose-colored glasses off. Look at what is in front of you, because it is what it is. It's not ever going to be what you wish it would be. He's never going to morph into anything other than the man that he is, and he's right in your face being himself. Accept it. If it's something that bothers you, you know what to do. You don't sit there trying to negotiate and try to change a grown man. Men don't change. I don't know how many times we have to say this. They don't change unless they want to. So you asking him and telling him and reminding him and doing all this kind of stuff that you waste years and years of your life doing, and he's still doing the same stuff, and he's doing that because that's what he wants to do, and he doesn't care if you don't like it. You need to understand that, okay? So you need to watch, look, listen, and analyze his behavior, analyze the things that he says to you. And remember, the main thing is to say no to any kind of relationship that looks like struggle love. Say no to struggle love. Struggle love, I don't know. Man, it's going to age you. You don't have lines. You can be in your 20s and stuff and be having wrinkles and skin all jacked up, looking all old. Don't do that to yourself. The main thing that you need to do is to pay more attention. Tune into yourself. Stop looking outside so much at what other people are doing, what other people are saying. Tune into yourself and pay attention to how what he says and what he does makes you feel. Got that? Look at that again. Pay attention to this side. Tune in to how what he says and how he says it too. That's important too. And what he does makes you feel. That little twinge of heartbreak, that pain, those tears that you choke back, that question in your mind, what does he mean by that? That really hurt my feelings. Those are the kind of things I'm talking about. Tune into that. Stop brushing it off saying, oh, I shouldn't feel that way. Oh, the problem is me. No, the problem's not you. The problem's not you. It is real. It is normal to feel hurt when someone says hurtful things to you. Stop thinking that you're the problem. It's him. Okay? Flipping that stuff around, trying to make it think like it's your fault, that's gaslighting. Don't fall for it. Stay focused on the fact that he's saying and doing things that are hurting you, and then you respond accordingly, whatever way that you want to, which for me would be get him out of my world. Because my thing is this. If he's not adding to my peace, he got to be removed from my life. Adding and subtraction. You either come in the door adding something, or you got to be subtracted from my world. You can't be here if you're acting a fool. You got to go. In conclusion, thank you for sitting through all these long-winded 3 videos. But I really, this is really important, you ladies. Don't think that you have to make all the changes that are on these different videos all at one time. Take it piece by piece. Make small improvements to your life, small changes to the choices that you make. being a little more thoughtful every day, taking a little more time to think things through, taking a little more time to tune into how you feel. And when you do that, you make small daily improvements. That stuff adds up, and you can achieve some wonderful, like unbelievable long-term results by making small changes every single day. I'm here for you. This is all about you becoming the best woman that you could be and making the smartest choices that you can make so you can live your best life. This is Deb Cooper signing out. I'll talk to you soon.